Hello guys, in the modern world it is extremely difficult, I'd say impossible to hide the truth. Sooner or later it becomes known. We all see that right now. And the things that frightened Russian oligarchs whisper into the ear of Putin become known too. And that is why the Washington Post, Reuters right now write articles under extremely optimistic headlines that the Russian economy has 3-4 months left before the largest collapse ever. These are the things that Russian businessmen try to tell Putin, waiting for his appropriate reaction, but all in vain. The inflation is way bigger than they report in the newspapers, and the fact that they are able to lie to some unexperienced people abroad does not change the situation inside Russia. Layoffs among the biggest, super successful companies in Russia, and Lukoil, Samolyot, these are huge Russian companies, now beg for money to support their work, because otherwise they will need to announce themselves bankrupt. And perhaps my favorite criteria, an amount of restaurants that are closed in Russia, in Moscow. The number is bigger than even during the times of pandemic, and this is an extremely alarming sign for the Russian oligarchs. And most importantly, with the loss of the oil and gas revenues to the federal budget, with the fact that taxes cannot solve the problem and the budget deficit will keep growing, Putin pretends that everything goes according to his plan. Well, yes, if his plan is to destroy the Russian Federation. And actually, such information goes in line with the recent interview of President Zelensky, where he also said that Putin can never get Donbass militarily. He knows about the bad situation in his army, in his economy, and that's why he pressures people who know very little about Ukraine and Russia to push Ukraine to surrender, when now is the time to remain united, to keep demilitarizing Russia and simply watch how it collapses. Subscribe to witness that together. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and share these videos, like these videos. This is the best way to demonstrate your solidarity with Ukraine and to spread the good and important information, because this matters. So according to the Washington Post, and by the way, I feel very sad that their offices are closing around the world, in Ukraine, in Germany, in times when people need this information the most. So, according to the Washington Post and Reuters and lots of Russian Telegram channels, the situation inside the Russian economy is so bad that they literally have 3-4 months when they can continue operating as if they were a country with more or less resources, and then it will all collapse. And most importantly, it reaches not a specific sphere of the Russian economy as it was previously, let's say aviation or construction, but literally everything, including the banking system. But let's have a look at this moments that the Russian oligarchs keep talking about. They are directly telling Putin about that, and he doesn't react at all. So number one, inflation. The Kremlin wants people to believe it is 6%, but it's way bigger, 2 or 3 times, and it is felt in the prices, in the closing of shops because the rent is too expensive, and many other things. And these businessmen, they start saying openly the fact that you name different numbers does not change the consequences of this high inflation. Then layoffs. A lot of people are fired on one's big companies because these companies cannot afford themselves such amount of staff. And you know that one by one, big Russian companies that were once the symbol of the Russian wealth keep closing or announcing themselves bankrupt, and this is the consequences. So more people are below the poverty line now in Russia. And also, I love this one, closing of restaurants in Moscow. A lot of cafes, restaurants closed, and this is an extremely alarming signal to people who live in the capital of the Russian Federation and are usually protected by Putin from any problems, not because he cares more about them, but because many of them are businessmen, oligarchs, and also because he does not want any protests in Moscow. He fears that. That's the reality of him. And honestly, the reasons for that are on the surface. First of all, 50% of fall in revenues in oil and gas because of the Ukrainian drone sanctions, Euro sanctions, we've discussed that. And Russia's federal budget is fully dependent on these revenues. And according to Reuters, and I love this part, they think that Russia's federal budget deficit may actually be 3 times worse than they predict, all because these revenues will keep falling. They are not prepared to take serious measures. They want to continue this war. They want to continue destroying Ukraine, not understanding that they destroy Russia even faster. That's absurdity, but stop thinking that Putin is adequate, that he sees this reality as it is. Unfortunately, right now we have too many leaders who are unconnected with reality. And that's why he believed that blitzkrieg was possible. That's why he continues this war year after year, unable to achieve any of his military goals, but just the country. Ukraine is way more militarized. We have a stronger, bigger army. We have military production. We do missiles that actually reached Russia's Kapustin Yar. Maybe you think that I'm too concentrated in my recent videos on the situation in Russia. That's all because the front line is not moving. People are heroes who protect us on the front lines. Right now they try to shake the rear, and literally the war expands everywhere with this frost that Russians use to freeze Ukrainians when targeting, hitting, and so on. But not much is happening on the front lines. A lot is happening inside Russia. And to understand this context, we need to know what's happening with their banking system. And it is under the tremendous pressure because higher taxes won't fix the situation. Companies and people have no money to pay that. They are closing their businesses even with lower taxes, so imagine what will happen with higher taxes. And also, corporate loans are extremely big. Rates that banks pay to their depositors are high, and the banking system is cracking. So usually they have at least one sphere of the economy that is strong and it backs up others. But now even Russia's national wealth fund that is almost empty, 71% of their gold reserves sold, maybe more because it was just a week ago, but they've announced that they will not sell any more resources to back up the banking system. And here we come to the situation when literally each branch of the Russian economy is collapsing, and Putin says that they need to spend more on the destruction of the Ukrainian infrastructure, forgetting what happens inside his country. And this results in fear and panic among oligarchs who were always his supporters. This results in protests that begin arising in very different parts of the Russian Federation. And this is visible even in the missiles that they used to target Ukraine. Finally, they've run out of Soviet crap, and they are using missiles produced in the end of 2025. They have no resources, human, financial, military, especially if we had more control over China, Iran, and what they are doing, over Russian tankers. Please, Europe, stop them. That is the best way to end this war, defeating Putin, demilitarizing Russia, delivering justice, and thus making this world a safer place. That's the plan. So please, do not let people trick you into this BS that by giving Donbass, Ukraine can stop the war. First of all, it's not about territories. It's Russia's desire to restore the USSR, to erase Ukraine and then other countries that were once unlucky to be the part of this Frankenstein, communist Frankenstein. And second, they cannot get these territories during 4 years when they had way better economy, way more people in the army, and had money to pay them. And now is not the time. Now is the time to finish Putin's regime, to liberate a lot of people, including Russians. So let me know your thoughts in comments below. I will be reading them with great pleasure, and share these videos if you agree with me. Also subscribe to my Anna Danilchuk channel, X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Substack and Discord. The links in the description of this video, same as the link to our merch. We have a new drop about spring, about St. Valentine's Day and about war, because this is our reality. Remember that I always love meeting you for our live conversation. Are you available this Saturday, 9 p.m. Kyiv? And once again, thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channels. But most importantly, thank you for being friends of mine and friends of Ukraine. United we stand. Slava Ukraini!